everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to this momentous occasion as we gather to commemorate and honor the legacy of a leader whose contribution to the political and social fabric of our nation continue to resonate deeply in present day. Today we pay tribute to the life and work of the late Hugh Desmond Hoyte, a man whose commitment to reform and good governance paved the way for transformative change in our beloved country. As we convene here today, it is only fitting that we reflect on the monumental changes brought about during Mr. Hoyte's tenure, which reshaped the very foundation of our governance. His vision was clear, a vision of a progressive and inclusive nation, where democratic principles were not merely talked about, but truly embedded in the framework of our government and society. And I'd like to pause here to acknowledge our dear friend, Dr. Torain Durga, who would agree with me that it was Hugh Desmond Hoyte who transformed the rice industry in Guyana. I think we can acknowledge his presence. Through his unwavering commitment to reform, Mr. Hoyte initiated profound transformations that touched every sector of our society. His economic reforms focused on opening markets, improving infrastructure, and fostering a more competitive economy, positioned our country on a path of growth and modernization. But it was his belief in the importance of democratic governance and accountability that truly set him apart. He did not simply seek change for the sake of change. He sought to empower our people, to uplift our institutions, and to ensure that the benefits of governance were felt by all. His approach to reform was marked by a deep respect for democratic processes and an unyielding dedication to building an inclusive society where citizens had a voice, where corruption was tackled, and where transparency and accountability reigned. As we reflect on the lessons of Mr. Hoyte's time in leadership, we are reminded that the strength of our party lies not only in its past achievement, but in the ability to adapt and rise to the challenges of today. We are here not only to honor his legacy, but also to commit ourselves to strengthening our party, the People's National Congress reform, to make it more resilient, more unified, and more prepared than ever for the challenges that lie ahead. In the lead up to the 2025 elections, we must redouble our efforts to ensure that the PNCR remains a force for positive change. This means uniting our membership, advancing our core principles, and showing the people of our nation that we are committed to the values of reform and good governance that have always defined us. As Mr. Hoyte showed us, the path to governance is not easy, but with determination, unity, and vision, it is within our reach. The strength of the PNCR in 2025 will depend on our ability to engage with our people, to listen to their needs, and to offer concrete solutions to the challenges they face. It will require an unwavering commitment to transparent, accountable leadership and a relentless focus on policies that will bring about real, lasting change in the lives of all Guyanese. We must look to Mr. Hoyte's example of courage and reform as we continue to advocate for policies that empower the people promote economic opportunity, and foster social justice. His legacy is not just about looking back at the progress we have made, but also looking forward to a brighter, more inclusive future for all. As we gather for today's lecture, Hugh Desmond Hoyte, Reform and Good Governance, let us remember that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Our responsibility is to continue the work of reform to ensure that our party is stronger than ever and to advance the ideals that will propel us back into government in 2025. Let us make that our collective mission, and let us make it clear to the people of Guyana that the PNCR, under the guiding principles of reform and good governance, is ready to lead once more. In closing, I welcome you all to this commemorative lecture, and I invite you to engage in thoughtful dialogue and reflection. May today's conversations inspire us all to continue the work of transformation and to move forward with the determination to strengthen our party and our country. I thank you.
Thank you, MP, for your opening remarks. Following the opening remarks, we will now be treated to two beautiful musical performances. First, we will hear My Native Land, followed by a rendition of a song made famous by Sarah Vaughan. And they will be performed by the talented Miss Jem Roulier, AA, ABRSM, will be our performer. Please give her a warm round of applause as she graces us with her music. Thank you.
Take your time. There you go. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I hope I don't let you down. I'm doing two medleys. The first is written by the Reverend W. Hawley Bryant and Valerie Rodway. The second set were written by Valerie Rodway and another familiar writer. What you said, what was the song? And so, our chairperson, occupants of the head table, foreign embassies and so on present here, and other members, I hope you enjoy and you listen to the words of this piece. All hail to Guyana, our country now free. One people, one nation, one destiny. We pledge every effort, we'll cherish this earth and make here a paradise, land of our birth. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea. So like the mountains, the sea, and the rivers, great, wide, and deep, in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day, in strength and beauty grow, till at length each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters gonna be. Born in the land where men sought El Dorado, land of the diamond, oil and bright shining gold. We would build up by our virtues and labors God's golden city, which never grows old. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters gonna be. No rich El Dorado has ever been found, though many have ended their lives on this ground. All labor in factory, in office and field will give us the wealth and the full harvest yield. All hail to Guyana, our country now free. One people, one nation, one destiny. We pledge every effort, we'll cherish this art and make here a paradise, land of birth. With purpose and vigor, we carve our own feet. On hell, nitrogen, prejudice, and hate. Together we'll strive for our nation's new goal, inspired by goodwill, a kindred of soul. All hail to Guyana, our country now free. One people, one nation, one destiny. We pledge every effort, we'll cherish this art and make here a paradise, land of birth. My next two songs, and I said it is a medley that I'll be doing. And the next song is He Got the Whole World in His Hand, and Valerie Rodway's Hymn for Guyana's Children. And I'll finish with her song too, Oh Beautiful Guyana. He's got the whole world. In his hand, he's got the whole world. In his hand, he's got the whole world. In his hand, he's got the whole world in his hand. He's got the wind and the rain. In his hand, he's got the wind and the rain. In his hand, he's got the wind and the rain. In his hand, he's got the whole world in his hand. 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 He's got the sun and the moon in his hand. He's got the sun and the moon in his hand. He's got the sun and the moon in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. With humble hearts and heads bowed down, in thanks for each new day of toil, we kneel before thine altar, Lord. The children of Gaia, the soil. Great is the task that thou hast given, thy will to show, thy truth to find, to see ourselves that we are one. In thy great universal mind. O children of Guyana, rise, rise up and sing with happy tears, and bless the land that gave you birth, and vow to serve her through the years. Oh, beautiful Guyana, oh, my lovely native land, more dear to me than all the world, thy sea was sun-kissed strand, or down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic blowing to a fury, or asleep. At morn, at noon, or better in the crimson sunset glow, I love thee. Oh, I love thee.
Yeah, make a big step down.
Thank you, Ms. Rollier, for those beautiful performances. But before I introduce to you our guest speaker for today, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Ezzie Rootcliffe, who is none other than one of our musical icons. Today, we are truly fortunate to have a distinguished guest with us today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker, Mr. Philip Drayton. He is a respected figure whose words and insights will surely resonate with us all. Please welcome Mr. Drayton to the stage.
Pleasant good afternoon to you. Our feature presenter comes from humble beginnings. Born in the upper reaches of the Barima River in the Northwest District, he is from Corina, it's a Carib nation of Guyana's first people. He is, as we would say in local parlance, PNC to the bone. He became a child member of the People's National Congress in 1978, but was never a member of the Young Socialist Movement. His first public appearance on the political scene was back in 1985 at a rally for the re-election of Mr. Hugh Desmond Hoyte at Kumaka in the Mabarimo sub-region of Region 1. At the time, he was still a teenage school boy. Years later, in 1999 to 2000, he would again meet Mr. Hoyte. This encounter resulted in this enduring relationship with the People's National Congress. By now, a resident of Region 3, he joined the Virginujan PNCR group and was elected group chairman. Since then, he has served his party, the People's National Congress Reform, in a number of important positions. These include regional committee chairman and elected member of the Central Executive Committee of the People's National Congress Reform. He served as regional member of parliament. He was alternate chairman of the Natural Resource Sectorial Committee, served on other standing and special select committees, and also served as shadow minister of agriculture. In government, he served with distinction as ministerial advisor to Honorable Sidney Alicock, the fourth vice president and senior minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, as well as on 4 state boards. He was later required to serve as a member of parliament in the closing months of the 11th parliament. A fearless advocate for the rights of Guyanese in general and Guyanese indigenous people in particular. Our feature presenter is currently an elected member of the Central Executive Committee of the People's National Congress Reform and host of the party's flagship program, Nation Watch. Ladies and gentlemen, the honor is mine to present to you our feature presenter, Mr. Marvin Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Drayton, for your kind words of introduction. Sessional Chair, members of the head table, Mr. Aubrey Compton Norton, leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the parliamentary opposition, members of the Central Executive Committee of the People's National Congress Reform, members of parliament, members of the diplomatic corps, elders, special invitees, comrades all. The honor is mine to join in welcoming you to the Hugh Desmond Hoyte 10th Commemorative Lecture. I trust that I would be able to do justice to the life and work of a great man. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it. So says Harper Lee in her timeless classic and award-winning novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. We may never really understand the depth of the philosophical personage of Hugh Desmond Hoyte. We can, however, from available evidence, gain an appreciation for the values he stood for, the ideals he held dear, the human side of the man, the leader, the teacher, the gentle guiding hand of the builder of a nation, the fierce patriot and nationalist that was Hugh Desmond Hoyte. It is indeed an honor to be allowed this opportunity today, March 9th, 2025, the 96th birth anniversary of a great man, to speak about him to you and to the wider audience at home and abroad. My first encounter with Mr. Hoyte was in December of 1985. As president of the Literary and Debating Club of the Northwest Secondary School, and that's in Mabaruma, the head teacher asked me to recite a poem to welcome the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to Mabaruma. This was at the once famous Barima House. I was later identified to join Mr. Hoyte on the platform and to speak at the rally at Kumaka. It was a well-attended rally for his re-election to the office of president. There and on that day was birthed the slogan, "Vote right, vote Hoyte." Years later, in 1990-2000, we met again. This time he invited me to meet with the General Secretary, Mr. Oscar Clark. Party Chairman, Mr. Robert Corbin, as he then was, also attended that meeting. The rest, as they say, is history. Desmond Hoyte, the man, the leader. Reflecting on Hugh Desmond Hoyte, the man, gives me the opportunity to reflect on his leadership. Like a good leader, he was a good listener, but tough. In his best moods, he could tell compelling stories and funny jokes to lighten up any tense moment. As he switched between moments of banter and seriousness, you came to realize that he was a rational leader who always kept enough options in his pocket to meet the moment of decision. He was a team player, yet capable of letting his own knowledge and skill break through the walls of compromise that often surrounds groups and institutional relationships. These characteristics of Desmond Hoyte were complemented by his keen awareness of Guyana's history and an understanding of the faith that Guyanese had in themselves and the yearning for the opportunity to show what we can do for our families and country. Sir Sridhar Ramphal, former Commonwealth Secretary General, in recounting a conversation with Mr. Burnham, said, and I quote, "His successor, he recognized, had to come from within the present cabinet. His clear choice, he told me, was Desmond Hoyte. He was aware, he said, that Desmond did not have a yearning for the presidency, but strangely, he did not regard that as a deficiency. Strangely, because he often voiced his view that a good political leader must have a great hunger for leadership. What determined his choice, he told me, was Desmond's intellectual integrity. Not just, he stressed, intellectual capacity, though that was essential, but intellectual honesty." Ambassador Ronald Austin, who is with us this evening, seated in front, I acknowledge your presence, sir, describes Mr. Hoyte thus: "Mr. Desmond Hoyte's private persona was as interesting and fascinating as that revealed by his political life. As an educated individual, he pursued interests outside the political domain and was decidedly a man of considerable culture. Whenever challenged by events or behavior or political adversaries, he would recite poetry or quote from great works of literature to restore his mental balance. When his political opponents stumbled, he would comment ironically, but was never one to continually seek the benefit from the indisposition of his foes," end quote. Mr. Clarence Hughes, SC, said that when Mr. Hoyte accepted a ministerial appointment in 1969, quote, "I thought at the time, what a great loss to the bar. I still think it was a great loss to the bar, but what a great gain it was for the country," end quote. Desmond Hoyte's work, commitment, and love for country are also relevant to today's Guyana. That is why he will always be remembered. He was a champion for justice and fairness, an advocate for equality and self-reliance. He was also an advocate for Amerindian land rights and worked for indigenous peoples in that process pro bono. His indomitable spirit and his courage to rise above adversity, transcending traditional political boundaries, guarantees his place in history as a leader with few peers. He was never intimidated by the prospects of or the need for change. His powerful statement at Congress that shared governance or inclusive governance was something whose time has come was as profound as his initial rejection of the idea. Informed by time, changing events, and world circumstances, he embraced change as the only constant in the universe. Desmond Hoyte lived a life in service to people, party, and country. His principal task, as he saw it, was to complete as rapidly as possible the evolution of Guyana as a country of free people, practicing free enterprise in an open society. He saw economic reform and the restructuring of the governance system as key to achieving this end. The economic reform program and the local government system were significantly emphasized. As the economic reform advanced, supported by social elements such as the Social Impact Amelioration Program, SIMAP, deliberate steps were being taken to advance the constitutionally mandated local government system. It was always intended to give power to the people. Mr. Hoyte was a man of the people. At the party's 8th Biennial Congress at the Sophia Auditorium on August 15, 1989, he delivered an address titled "A Nation at Work." Mr. Hoyte dedicated an entire passage to the people and another to "In Service of People," during which he said, and I quote, "Our party always believed that development is about people. It is initiated by people. It is sustained by people, and people are its ultimate beneficiaries. Let us not see caring for one another as part-time or ad hoc activity. Let us make it one of the principles by which we live and recognize it as a powerful influence in the shaping of a humane society and in the process of human development. This is a time for caring. I care for this party. I care for the members of this party, all of you collectively and each of you individually. I care for the people of this country, the poor and the disadvantaged, as well as those who live in more comfortable circumstances. But I care for the needy because they need more care. My efforts will continue to be directed to translating this principle of caring into purposeful action in service to people," end quote. It was this deep sense of care that in large measure informed his tireless effort to ensure that economic reform realized greater benefits for Guyanese citizens and good governance replaced the failed colonial system, all in the best interest of Guyanese. Reform. Following his surprising appointment as Minister of Home Affairs in 1969, Mr. Hoyte was appointed Minister of Economic Development and Cooperatives in 1979. On the 12th of March 1979, he presented his first national budget to the National Assembly. It was Guyana's 15th annual budget. In introducing the budget of 1979, Mr. Hoyte said, "This budget in concept makes a radical and definitive departure from the traditional approach and methodology. The old-style budget, with its limited perspective and equally limited financial and economic data, has become inadequate and anachronistic. In successive budgets as Vice President, Economic Planning and Finance, particularly the one of 1983, he prepared a foundation for the reformation of Guyana's economy. The time of the commencement of the work fundamental to this significant change, which would follow, is testament to the fact that Mr. Hoyte, contrary to the view held by some, never departed from the policies of the founder leader of the PNC. Rather, he ensured the fulfillment of Mr. Burnham's changed policies. When he became leader of Guyana, Desmond Hoyte recognized that he was leading a fiercely patriotic people who, in an earlier period, were often called upon to defend themselves against harsh colonial and geopolitical realities, and the New World Order, whose many impositions curtailed their ambition to be self-reliant. He, like Forbes Burnham, the leader he served and later succeeded, realized that the people of Guyana needed more than conviction to survive and thrive. He knew that it was not enough for Guyanese to rely on their own self-confidence and the many natural resources of the country that were available for exploitation. He acknowledged that the political conflicts between the Arabs and Israelis in the 1970s that led to some OPEC members to assert their authority over price and availability of oil had placed Guyana's model of development in jeopardy. The free spirit of Guyanese was increasingly being challenged by dwindling economic opportunities and fleeting defenses to reassure their anxious families that everything will be all right. There was no easy way out from a set of circumstances over which Guyana had no control, but which had placed a stranglehold on its lofty aspirations. The nostalgic approach to development had to be broadened. Self-reliance and limited global partnerships were not enough to bring the best out of Guyanese. His revised vision, for the country required him to reach into his bag of development options to reshape the macroeconomic landscape, the pillars of the economic recovery program, an enduring legacy of his. He saw Guyana as a family in which spouses work jointly to keep the family together to bring about its success. This positive concept of the family persuaded him that Guyana could be better placed if both the public and private sectors, like the family, were able to play meaningful roles in the development of the country. With this broader and nostalgic vision of what Guyana's sons and daughters could be, Desmond Hoyte designed his economic recovery program to allow the private sector to play a role, a major role, in the economy. Not only did he liberalize foreign exchange regulations to make foreign exchange market more participatory, but he also removed price controls from key items and lifted restrictions on imports that many Guyanese felt were central to their happiness and prosperity. Beyond that, he sold many public entities to private investors as his economic team set the tone for Guyana to become more integrated with the rest of the world. One recalls the granting of oil exploration licenses to a few oil companies in 1988. This is one of the outcomes of the promotional seminars for oil investments that were held in London and Houston early in the decade of 1980. The framework for his economic development program was developed in collaboration with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. His perspective bore fruit. For a period of 7 years, Guyana's economy grew at a phenomenal rate of between 6 and 8% per annum. This accomplishment was never seen again until Guyana started to produce oil and gas. His humanity was exposed with the insistence of a safety net being put in place to ease the pain of the many who would suffer as a result of the downsizing of the public sector to make room for the private sector. good governance. We are in an election year, and I will take some time to discuss particularly local government. A constituent assembly was established by Resolution 123, dated 21st July 1978 in the National Assembly. The intent was to create a new constitution for Guyana. On the 20th of January 1980, the Constituent Assembly completed its work by submitting a constitution to the National Assembly. The Constitution of the Cooperative Republic Bill 1980 was tabled in the National Assembly. On the 14th day of February 1980, it was passed with amendments. The bill was passed as passed was assented to by the President on February 20th, 1980. Minister of Economic Planning and Cooperatives, H.D. Hoyte, would table in the National Assembly the Local Democratic Organs Bill, Bill number 12 of 1980, on the 31st day of July, 1980. On August 5th, 1980, Mr. Hoyte, Minister of Economic Development and Cooperatives, pursuant to the new constitution and in advancing government's local government reform agenda, presented a state paper to the National Assembly on the reorganization of local government system in Guyana. Mr. Hoyte was the chief architect of the local government system of this country. Inspired by his belief in people and the right to be involved in, shape, and to lead the development process in their villages, communities, neighborhoods, and regions, he set about the task so great and so important to our country, and yet so often forgotten by us, the beneficiaries of his visionary and astute leadership. The principal objective of the political system of the state is to extend democracy by providing increasing opportunities for the participation of citizens in the management and decision-making processes of the state. So said Mr. Hoyte. This was the philosophical underpinning of the concept of the proposed new system of local government. In his state paper, Mr. Hoyte laid out the entire concept of local government and local democracy. He relied upon and complied in the process with the following articles of our Constitution. Article 9. Article 9 says that sovereignty belongs to the people who exercise it through their elected representatives and the democratic organs established by or under the Constitution. Article 12, local government by freely elected representatives of the people is an integral part of the democratic organization of the state. Article 13, the principal objective of the system of the state is to establish an inclusionary democracy by providing increasing opportunities for the participation of citizens and their organizations in the management and decision-making processes of the state, with particular emphasis on those areas of decision-making that directly affect their well-being. And Article 71(1), local government is a vital aspect of democracy and shall be organized so as to involve as many people as possible in the task of managing and developing the communities in which they live. Article 12 effectively identifies and gives prominence to the local government system as one of the most important democratic institutions in our country. As Mr. Hoyte himself puts it, its integral importance in the political framework constitutes an essential characteristic of the democratic organization of the state. He described the colonial system as one that lacked self-reliance and self-sufficiency and tended to cause dependency on the political center. Mr. Hoyte was evidently unhappy with the colonial system, principally because it was not birthed from the experiences of, nor was it devised or fashioned by Guyanese. In fact, the Robertson Commission, a British-appointed commission of 1954, criticized the then local government system, resulting in the appointment of Dr. Marshall by the same British government to inquire and report on the said system. Marshall's report formed the basis for replacing the system with a new homegrown, locally devised, locally inspired, and locally managed system of local governance. Hugh Desmond Hoyte outlined clearly the establishment of our current electoral process. In this process, he clearly defined the local democratic organs and the qualifications of electors and candidates alike. He established at that time the number of persons who would directly participate in the system as councillors, etc. The election process for the regional democratic councils was carefully detailed. So too were the processes for towns, Amerindian village councils, and other organs of local democratic power. With respect to the RDCs, elections were designed to be contested on a party basis in accordance with a system of proportional representation which regulates general elections. Guyana was divided into 10 administrative regions. The regions were further subdivided into sub-regions, and those broken down into districts, neighborhoods, villages, and people's cooperative units. Not only were the processes of elections clearly defined in the same way as the physical geography was demarcated, but the functions, responsibilities, and powers of each local democratic organ was clearly defined. He was clearly a meticulous man who spared no effort, gave no quarter, left no stone unturned, crossed each T and dotted each I in dealing with the business of the state. The Local Democratic Organs Act, Act 12 of 1980, Chapter 28:09, described as an act to make provisions for the institution of a countrywide system of local government through the establishment of organs and local democratic power as a vital aspect of socialist democracy, enabling the Constitution set out in the schedule of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana Act, Chapter 1:01, to function on or after the date appointed for the coming into operation of the Constitution and for purposes connected therewith, was passed and became law on the 6th of October, 1980. Guyana's new constitution, shaped, fashioned, and crafted and approved by the citizens of Guyana, came into effect on that very date, 6th October, 1980. Hugh Desmond Hoyte was the architect-in-chief of local government system of Guyana. The creation of the system was a transformative action. It transformed the entire system of governance in Guyana, placing the power to make decisions about people's development into the hands of the people themselves. It was designed to cause central government to be advised by the people. The system still intends that people should lead their own development, utilizing the resources available to them in their respective geographic spaces, according to the design, layout, natural resources, and population of their local authority area, supported by the center. The entire electoral system by which we operate, with which we live, was designed by Hugh Desmond Hoyte and his team of professionals. How we vote, the qualification of the electors, the qualification of the candidate, the configuration of each democratic organ, the powers of each organ, each office holder's responsibility flow from the work and vision, and leadership and inspiration of Hugh Desmond Hoyte. The things we take for granted were the things that consumed his time and full attention for countless hours. What he aspired to has unfortunately been largely dismantled by successive PPP administrations. What we now have is the reverse of what was intended by the system designed in 1980. The power is back at the center. The local democratic organs are mere puppets of the political directorate, with zero respect accorded to the people and the exercise of their sovereignty through their freedom and freely elected representatives. Conclusion. Whilst the focus of my presentation was limited to two areas, reform and governance, it is important to recognize Mr. Hoyte's love for the arts and humanity. This also influenced the things he did as president of Guyana. One would recall that it was he who established the Guyana Prize for Literature. It was he who conceptualized and established the world's first living biological diversity laboratory, which we know today as the Iwakama International Center for Rainforest Conservation and Development. One would also recall that his embrace for the Reform Group. This led to the signing of a compact between the Reform and the PNC on December 29, 2000. The signatories were Mr. Hoyte himself for the PNC and Mr. Stanley Ming for the Reform Group. The PNC Reform contested the 2001 general and regional elections. This compact, in the view of many, was the starting point for the PNC's involvement in broader coalition building in Guyana going forward. The PNCR One Guyana was led by Mr. Robert Herman Orlando Corbin in the elections of 2006, and a Partnership for National Unity by Mr. David Arthur Granger in 2011. In 2015, the APNU plus AFC, led by Mr. Granger, secured victory at the polls and formed the government. It is our expectation that our labor shall result in Aubrey Compton Norton leading a similar coalition to victory at the polls in 2025, whenever they come. In closing, and as a tribute to one of Guyana's greatest leaders, I leave with you the following words from the great poet, William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstances, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for your great lecture. It was very remarkable. At this time, as we conclude our program, it is my pleasure to call upon Ms. Selena David, member of the PNCR, who will deliver the vote of thanks. Let us show our appreciation for Ms. David as she brings our event to a close.
Madam Chairperson, other members of the head table, leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the opposition, members of the Central Executive Committee, members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests and special invitees, elders of our great party, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it a privilege that I've been asked by my party to move a vote of thanks for the second time within a week. This time, I am being asked to move the vote of thanks. This time, I am being asked to move the vote of thanks on the occasion of the 10th memorial lecture of our second leader of the party, Mr. Hugh Desmond Hoyte, SCMP. Today, we are gathered here today not just to reflect on the life and legacy of a great man, but also to celebrate his contributions to the development of our beloved nation, Guyana. Mr. Hoyte's vision and leadership as President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and as leader of the People's National Congress Reform continue to resonate with us all. His unwavering commitment to the advancement of our country remains an inspiration for current and future generations. It is these qualities which enable him and his colleagues in the PNC to craft the Economic Recovery Program, ERP, which return our national economy to growth and development and prosperity. I must at the same time recognize the leader of our party, Mr. Aubrey Compton Norton, who has carried on the tradition of past leaders through diligent effort and an unwavering commitment to advancing the interests of both the party members and the people of Guyana. Our leader entered the rank of our party at a very young age and has served in and out of season. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Marvin Williams, who has enriched this lecture with his invaluable insights. Mr. Williams, your words have not only deepened our understanding of Mr. Hoyte's legacy, but also inspire us to reflect on the values he championed: integrity, progress, and service to the people. A heartfelt thank you to our chairperson, Ms. Jasmine Yackett, for so ably guiding us through this program. Appreciation is also in order for Mr. Ganesh Maipal for his remarks. To Mr. Philip Drayton, I say thank you for the excellent introduction of our guest speaker. Your thoughtful words set the stage perfectly, allowing us to appreciate the insights shared. A heartfelt thank you to Ms. Jem Roller for your voice. Your voice added a special touch. Your voice added a special touch to this lecture. Indeed, your voice and music serve as a good cultural background to this event. A sincere thank you to the organizers of this event. Without your tireless efforts, we would not have had the privilege of commemorating this milestone in our country's history. Your hard work and commitment have made this lecture a success, and we're all grateful for the dedication in honoring the life of Mr. Hoyte. To the friends of Mr. Hoyte, I say we acknowledge and honor his indelible contribution to our nation and beyond. His vision continued to guide us, and his principle remain a beacon of leadership and good governance. A special thank you goes out to the audience for your presence today, and for those joining virtually. Your participation demonstrated the continued admiration and respect that Mr. Hoyte garnered throughout his life, and the ongoing belief in the values he championed. This commemoration would not have had the same significance without your involvement. As we conclude, let us carry forward the spirit of this gathering, embracing the lessons learned and striving to uphold the ideal Mr. Hoyte stood for. In the words of an old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. May we continue this journey together, building on the foundations of great leaders and working towards the future of justice, unity, and prosperity, not only today, but every day, through our actions, our commitment to nation building, and our shared vision for a prosperous and unified Guyana. Thank you all once again for being a part of this historic occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. David, for your vote of thanks. And once again, thank you all for being a part of today's event. We're very grateful for the contributions of our speakers, performers, and all those who work together to make this event possible. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand as we sing the last stanza of the national anthem. Dear land of Guyana, to you will we give our home major service each day that we live. God guard you, great mother, and make us to be more worthy your character. land of Once again, thank you all for being here. There's refreshments at the back. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.